Hello and welcome. This is Michael Beach, and you are dialed into the What Are You Doing podcast. This is the show for thought leaders who are investing in the next generation of leadership for their organization. This is also the show for emerging leaders who want to become that next generation of great leaders. Together, we can develop leaders who will, in turn, develop more leaders and make a difference in this economy and make a difference in this world. All of us here at Michael Beach Coaching and Consulting are excited to be able to bring you another podcast episode today. We consider ourselves very fortunate to be engaged in the business of contributing to the success of forward-thinking, fast-growth companies. We are so grateful to be able to help them to develop and cultivate great leaders at all levels of their companies because it's really rewarding and meaningful work. We're thrilled that our work often leads to results that make a difference for those companies and, more importantly, for the families that make their living at those companies. We're especially excited today to have the opportunity to introduce you to today's special guest, my friend, and an extraordinary emerging leader in her own right, Natalie Lemke, the Vice President of Small and Medium Business Delivery for Stoneridge Software. Stoneridge is a Minnesota-based Microsoft Gold partner located right here in the Twin Cities, and then they have offices up near Fargo as well. Stoneridge Software provides ERP and CRM solutions to companies in the manufacturing, agriculture, distribution, construction, and professional services industries. One of my favorite things about Stoneridge is I love that they step into their clients' shoes on purpose and deliver solutions that maximize business impact. It's great to have you with us today, Natalie. Welcome.
Welcome to you. It's really exciting to be here today.
Great to have you here. I want to tell the audience a little bit more about you, if you don't mind. You shared something with me that I want to share with them. You said that you had the great fortune when you were younger of being a temporary during college. As I understand it, you were a contractor at about 20 plus different businesses where you were a receptionist, an admin, and an office assistant. You said that it was a fantastic experience and it taught you to say yes to a lot of different job responsibilities. So finish the story for us. What else do you want to tell us about that?
Of course. So when I had the opportunity to say yes to all those different job responsibilities and working at all those different organizations, I really got to see how different businesses worked. I temped at a law firm, an architecture firm, a marketing agency, a technology company, and ultimately it led me to a temp gig at SPS Commerce, where I started with a 2-week assignment. And at the conclusion of that 2-week assignment, I was extended and extended again. But my opportunity there transitioned from being a receptionist to other administrative tasks. I got to work with the delivery group and the finance group and the customer service group. And I found that through raising my hand and saying, hey, I'm bored, I'd like some more to do, I got some really cool opportunities to work on some very interesting projects. And ultimately that led to 12 years at SPS Commerce.
That's outstanding. What a great lesson for everybody listening, right? Being positive and raising your hand and volunteering, great way to move your career forward. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Well, I'm going to throw you a softball question to start out. I think I'd like to know, and I'm sure our audience would like to know, who's your favorite musical artist?
My favorite artist of all time is Celine Dion. I think that she's a powerhouse as a singer, and she really has had an amazing trajectory in her career. And not only do I really enjoy all of her music, I just find her a remarkable human being.
She is amazing. There's no doubt about that. What a voice. Have you ever seen her live, Natalie?
I have never seen her live.
Oh, my goodness. I think we've just figured out something that needs to go on your bucket list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy that if you get the chance. Well, help us understand, at what point in your life did you become interested in leadership? How did you get involved in developing leaders?
So Really early in my career, I knew that a leadership position aligned with the things that I enjoyed about work. So really early, I had an interest in becoming a leader. And I didn't, however, sit down and create a 12-step plan to get from my individual contributor role to a leadership role. For me, it was really an organic process. At the time, I don't know that I quite recognized how fortunate that I was, but I worked with a collection of really talented female leaders at SPS Commerce, and that was really something that I attribute to that transition, again, from, solo artist to, being a leader of a large team of individuals and ultimately having direct and indirect reports. So for me, that transition was a critical part, but just seeing those leaders show up compassionate, yet still passionate, driven, and inspiring, that really, to me, was something I identified with. That was the type of leader that I wanted to be, and to see that modeled in not one, but many leaders within that organization lit that fire in me to say, that's what I want to do.
Fantastic. I'm curious, Natalie, what's the best business or leadership book that you've ever read?
I so enjoy Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. That is a classic, and I have gifted that book many times over. Another book that I have actually gifted many times over is Never Split the Difference. That's a great one. Okay. And then recently I read Dan Heath's Upstream, that thought process of being able to solve a problem before it occurs. So those are a couple of favorites. I am a book junkie, so hard to answer with just one.
Fantastic. I have not yet read Dan's latest book, but I've read several of them that he's written previously, some of which he's written with his brother.
Right.
And I found him to be a really great guy. My office manager and I are in contact with them because sometimes we write summaries of their books, and they've been really gracious, and they're cool people in addition to being great authors. Did you have any leadership mentors along the way who made a big impression or a big investment in you on your way up?
I would definitely say yes. At the top of my list is Jessica Robinson. She is currently the VP of Finance at The Stable, another Minneapolis-based company. I had the opportunity to do some work for Jessica when I was a temp at SPS. And it was through working with Jessica that I really fell in love with finance. I didn't know that finance was a passion of mine while I was in college, so I missed that opportunity. But when I arrived in my working life and started doing work with the finance team, the reporting and the analysis and understanding what the numbers meant from a business perspective, that really unlocked a lot for me. On the flip side, Jess taught me a really valuable lesson when I was newly a people manager. I had some incidents occur where I was just beyond infuriated about a situation, and Jess taught me it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to let your staff know that you're frustrated as long as you're professional about it, and it is okay to experience the full range of human emotions at work. And that was really helpful for me, again, as an early leader, learning and understanding how I could continue to be myself, but also let my team know where I was at, based on an event, a challenge, workload, et cetera.
What a great lesson. Mm-hmm. I know you've been developing a high-performing team at Stoneridge Software. I think we'd like to hear your thoughts about teamwork and collaboration in the workplace. Do you have any observations you'd like to share?
For my team, when I think about work and collaboration, especially as we're all distributed, there's a couple things that I think are really important for my team. Trust is critically important, and a word that I think often gets a lot of lip service. We have integrity as a business. It's easy to say, it's hard to demonstrate, and even harder to prove, right?
Right.
Doing the right thing no matter what. I think for my team, having that reliance, that self-assurance that they can work together with one another and that they can count on their peer, that's so important and something that I work hard to foster. We have a hashtag on my team. If you see something, say something. So that's our hashtag, see something, say something, is something that we parade on my team, which makes it a little bit more lighthearted. It's okay to be candid with your peers. You need to be kind in that candor,
Right.
However, we're counting on one another to say something if we see something. Don't assume that everyone interprets the situation the same or that everyone had that observation. The other thing I think is really important is creating opportunities for folks to communicate with one another. So it's hard to have a deep, meaningful relationship with your colleague, to be authentic with that person, if you don't have the chance to talk to them unless you carve out the time. So that could be through things like virtual coffee connect. We follow the traction model here at Stoneridge. So we do level 10s, an opportunity to surface issues, just making sure people have time to attend those meetings and take the time to connect with their peers.
That's terrific. I have to imagine that a dynamic emerging leader like yourself must spend some time investing in yourself so that you become a better leader. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing to raise the level of your leadership game?
So for myself, something that I've spent time on over the past, probably most intensely over the past 2 years, is being authentically me. Identifying what it is in my role that brings me joy and maximizing my opportunity to do those things that bring me joy. And the reason I find that important as a developing leader, or to continue to hone my leadership muscle, is as a joyful leader, I know I'm a lot more fun to work with. I know I can be more inspiring to my team. I can be more motivating to others. I can provide the support that others need. That's really important to me. And one of the things that brings me joy as a leader is that real human connection to the individuals that I have the opportunity to work with, my clients, my prospects, my team members, my counterparts in other areas of our business. So for me, that's an area of investment that I've really focused on, as well as folks in my network. The other area I feel is important to invest in, and I've invested in, is thinking about how I want to show up for meetings. So a trick, Michael, that I think you taught me was thinking about an important meeting that I have coming up. We do the prep work. So I'll use a recent example. We had a board meeting. How do I want to show up to a board meeting? Well, at a board meeting, that's a more serious, more professional meeting. I want to show up as confident, calm, and I want to show up as confident in the results of my team, as well as confident in myself as a leader. And I want to show up as calm, because 2020 has been a year, right? And so, taking the time to prepare myself for that meeting in terms of traditional prep, board slides, board summaries, analysis on the previous quarter, that's one set of prep work. But the other set of prep work is taking the time to think about how I want to show up to that meeting, and then simply writing those words on the top of my notebook, or writing those, typing those words on the top of my OneNote as my North Star. I might get asked some tough questions. If I get asked some tough questions, what should the tone in my voice represent to those in that meeting? Or what should my posture or commentary reflect? Well, that calmness and that confidence in that board meeting, that's a different way than I might want to show up to a different meeting within my organization, or with a client where perhaps I want to be more energetic and more charismatic. So that has been a little trick that I have started using, and it so helps in grounding me as I'm in those conversations, to remember, what type of leader do I want to show up as during this meeting?
That's terrific. Spectacular advice for those of you listening. If you've got a board meeting in your future, you want to take Natalie's advice to heart. There's no substitute for being calm, well-prepared, and confident, even when they ask you the tough question that you weren't anticipating. So good for you, Natalie. I'm glad that's going so well for you. As you're developing leaders in your organization, have you started now to come to some conclusions about maybe 2 or 3 changes that you might recommend to an aspiring leader that they can make that'll help them to improve their leadership skills?
I find that many inspiring leaders are very dedicated to the task at hand. They're typically high performers that are good at producing high quality work output at a high velocity. What sometimes happens when you overinvest in the tactical or the strategic work that needs to get done, either tactical or strategic, is that you forget to invest in relationships. You forget to find time to do those things that bring you joy. You maybe lose a little bit of your personal identity because you're so invested or so committed to the cause or the task at hand. So from my perspective, those are the areas that I think folks could focus on, is don't miss out on the opportunity to invest in those important relationships or maintain existing relationships.
Right.
That can, again, if a big project is on the horizon, it's easy to put those relationships on the back burner. Then we need them to serve you. You've not kindled the flame, so to speak. And similarly, ensuring that you get time to do the work that brings you joy, either at work or through opportunities outside of work. Those areas and just staying true to yourself, I think, are things that are easy to set to the side, but I think in the long run are a detriment as opposed to rocket fuel for that aspiring leader.
Some amazing advice there, folks. All right, let's take time for a commercial break. We'll be back in just a minute. Hi, this is Michael. What are you doing to clearly identify the most important changes that need to be made to performance tune your business? If I told you that in just 14 days' time, you could possess an actionable roadmap for an outstanding future for your business, would you be intrigued? Call us at 651-335-4505 or in Arizona at 520-732-2266 to arrange for a no-cost, no-obligation discovery conversation with one of our master coaches. We'll help you understand how we quickly identify the changes that you need to make that are going to performance tune your organization and lead to predictable success for your business. Mention the What Are You Doing podcast, and we'll give you a $500 off certificate for your performance tuning and the recommendations that will come to you in your executive summary report. That's our commercial. And now let's go back to the show. Okay, we're back with Natalie Lemke, the Vice President of Small and Medium Business Delivery over at Stoneridge Software. Natalie, I'm curious, have you noticed any particular obstacles or barriers that you see growing leaders tending to get slowed down behind or maybe stuck by?
When a leader gets stuck, especially those that are in the process of growing up as a leader, if you don't have those around you that you can trust, if you have team members you feel you can't trust, a peer you feel you can't trust, maybe another leader within your organization that you feel you can't trust, it's hard to get your greater causes advanced. It's hard to get strategic initiatives moved down the court. If it's individuals on your team, it can lead to micromanagement. That doesn't serve anyone. It's not good for you. It's not good for your team member. It's not good for the team members that surround that individual. So identifying those areas where you feel you're lacking in trust and then doing that simple assessment. Are there things that you can do as a leader to mend the fence or build the trust or invest in the relationship? Or is this a relationship that's not serving you that, either you need to work around or walk away from? That is, I think, one of the biggest obstacles or barriers. And typically it shows up as that I need to micromanage this team member because they just can't get it done. Well, if you really peel the onion back far enough, what's at the heart? It's a lack of trust. Is that something that team member can regain with you, or is this no longer going to work out? Same thing with a peer or another leader in your organization. It's just worth that extra investment and that additional reflection time to identify, is it trust that's really holding me back, and what can I do to move this forward?
Incredible insights, Natalie. There's no way to have great relationships with people if you don't have trust. It is the foundation of anything good that's going to happen between two organizations, two people. Just can't get anything done without it. Appreciate you bringing that up. What's the greatest leadership advice anybody's ever given you?
I early on thought it was really unprofessional to show a broad spectrum of emotion. And Michael, you know me well. I experience all the emotions, full range. I'm a full range individual. My highs are high, my lows are low. There's probably a variety in the middle of emotions that I experience even in any given day. And for my team, typically they find that it's humorous. I get quite passionate about particular topics, and volume control sometimes is a challenge for me. But that aside, early in my career, I thought that range of emotion was unprofessional. I had this preconceived notion that showing my emotions to my team, to my peers, to my leaders was actually a detriment, that folks would judge me or think that I wasn't capable of being a manager, being a leader, if I experienced strong emotion, either in the positive, the extreme joy that you get when your team has a major accomplishment, or anger and frustration. Really, where I learned this was from, as I mentioned, my mentor, Jessica Robinson. She taught me how to experience those emotions, and that as long as I was professional, being me and having those emotions, again, assessing the situation, not every situation is appropriate for all emotional reactions, but assessing the situation and letting folks know where I was at is not unprofessional. And in fact, it can be really inspiring or motivating or course correcting for individuals that experience that emotion. So that to me has been really insightful. And I've seen that play out now in the consulting services space. If I'm working with a client and we experience a challenge, if I let them know that I see this as a challenge too, and I'm unhappy about it, that's very different than being neutral. Oh, right. Yeah, we've got this challenge on a project. Gosh darn. That's very different than I'm really frustrated that we have this challenge on this project and together we need to attack this challenge. Those are two very different approaches. So it served me well once I learned that it is, in fact, professional to experience a full range of emotions at work.
A nugget of gold there for sure. I would much rather work with somebody who is professionally able to share their emotions with me than someone who kind of comes across as an emotional blackboard. I just don't know what they're feeling or thinking.
Right.
How important are core values in your organization?
When I joined Stoneridge, I learned that the core values here are really live or die. We look at our core values as how we hire, how we measure performance, how we make strategic decisions. They're really intertwined with how we operate as an organization. And as an individual, there's a couple of our corporate core values that are really important to me as an individual. I have shared, I like to experience my full range of emotions. I prefer to land on the side of joy in that emotional spectrum. One of our core values is enjoy your work, and that to me is so important. Another core value that we have here is tenacity. I have a good friend and colleague, Noelle Super, that talks about having the fire in your belly, that desire to wake up and get after it. Again, that's important to me as an individual. And so to work somewhere where it's also important to that organization to see tenacity in its employees and team members, that is important to me. It's aligning and it makes me feel well seated, right? I'm where I'm supposed to be. And then the last one for me is that integrity value. I feel very strongly that being able to put my head on the pillow at night and sleep soundly because I know that I was above board all day and I've been above board all week and all year, despite challenges or critical situations that maybe required some strategic leadership. That for me, again, did I make the right decision? Was I candid? Was I honest? Was I above board? Those are really important to me.
Superb. I would imagine that you're recruiting people to your organization from time to time. When you're recruiting people that are going to become part of your leadership team, what are some of the characteristics and the traits that you're looking for in those candidates?
Very similar to those core values. We measure back to those core values in all of our hiring. Are they tenacious? Do they demonstrate integrity? Do they enjoy their work? Our other core values are technical excellence and being client-centric. Do they wake up in the morning thinking about how we're going to solve that problem? And will that solution best suit our client? In addition to that, on my leadership team, and I think across Stoneridge, thoughtfulness, which relates in a way to emotional intelligence, is very important. I like a thoughtful individual on my team, someone who's calm, cool, and collected, able to distill a large problem into actionable tasks or to say, okay, what's the right next step forward? But that thoughtfulness, I find invaluable.
Yeah, I can see why you would look for all of those things in anybody that's going to join your team.
Absolutely.
You've invested a bit of time and energy in yourself over the years to become a great leader. Can you identify for us the best single leadership development investment you've made thus far?
I did not know how important networking was early in my career. And when I learned how to network, and then I took the time to truly invest in networking for the sake of building my outside of Stoneridge or outside of SPS Commerce network, that was a really well-made investment. I, again, felt that if I loved my job, why would I need to talk to people that don't work here? What a closed-minded thought. But again, based on a preconceived notion that the only people that network are people who are looking for new jobs. That couldn't be further from the truth. But again, was a preconceived notion that I had early in my career was that was the reason you network is to land your next gig. I learned so much about myself, my industry, the Minneapolis area, just through simple networking. And it has been invaluable to me. The time spent there really has helped me grow as a leader.
I'm not surprised. I'm a bit of an active networker myself, and I find that when I'm active at networking, I'm at my best, right? I run into opportunities that I otherwise wouldn't have run into because I made the hour-long commitment or whatever to go to the networking event. When I miss those things, I end up missing the opportunities that would have come from them.
Absolutely.
Great advice. Thank you again, Natalie. What would you recommend to our listeners about investing in others if our listeners are going to start developing great leaders around them? How should they go about it?
To develop another leader, I think the single greatest gift that you can give to that individual is the gift of time. I have been so fortunate to have others give me the gift of time. That access, showing up for that individual is so meaningful and important. And so I would say that gift of time and that undivided time. So it might be 30 minutes once a month, but if that 30 minutes is undivided time where that aspiring leader can bring to you a problem, a challenge, a question, and in that safe space of your relationship can ask that question and gain some new insights or get your advice or opinion on that particular challenge or issue. I think that's the greatest gift that you can give to someone and can be a real challenge to give that gift of time, right? We're all capacity constrained. Taking that time, again, hopefully teaches that individual to turn around and do it for the next leader that they grow, right?
Absolutely. We would hope so. Well, that's an awesome tidbit for our listeners. We've got time for one more question. And I guess rather than a question, I'll just kind of throw it open to you. Is there anything you wish we had asked you or anything that you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I'd like to talk about joy a little bit more.
Okay.
For me, one of the things that I can say came true in my career was finding my joy. So as it turns out, I love problem solving. I actually am a Business Central enthusiast. So for those of you crazy about Dynamics products, that's something that brings me an immense amount of joy. And I love people. And so cracking that nut and learning, that's my combo pack. This is what brings me the most amount of joy. And then seeking out opportunities to maximize that joy at work. That for me has been finding the solution to a very complex puzzle. It has been so rewarding for me to identify within myself the three things that are really important to me. And so I would say that to others, take the time to reflect and determine what it is that brings you joy, maybe not in your current role, but holistically, what work tasks, what work activities, what brings you joy, and then align yourself either on a career track that allows you access to do those things you love or a career transition that allows you to do those things that you love. But that to me has been something really meaningful and something I talk about it with my team all the time. What is it about your role that brings you joy? What opportunities can we create for you that will bring you more joy? Because work can be really fun. It can be really rewarding if your role is aligned to your personal motivations and the things that bring you the most happiness. So,
unbelievably insightful. Thank you very much for mentioning that. I can see why you are so successful at what you do because you bring a tremendous amount of energy and positivity to your work.
Thanks.
Well, that's our episode for today, leaders. We want to thank our special guest, Natalie Lemke, the Vice President of Small and Medium Business Delivery with Stoneridge Software. Natalie, thank you so much for sharing your stories with our What Are You Doing listeners today. We really appreciate your contribution to our program and to our listeners' ongoing success. I'm hopeful that you'll want to come back and visit us again sometime for another episode, because I think you've done a terrific job today, and it's been a great learning experience for me and a great learning experience for all of our listeners. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure. Well, gang, our next episode is going to be released in 2 weeks. We're excited to announce that the next show is going to feature me talking with Sonia St. Charles, the co-founder and CEO of the Davenport Group, a really great company founded in St. Paul about 10, 12 years ago that is now national in scope, providing IT solutions and services for customers virtually all over the United States. We want to thank you, listeners, for joining us today, and please reach out to us at info@michaelbeachcoach.com if you've got a suggestion for a future episode guest, or perhaps if you want to become a featured guest yourself. We'd love to have you. We'll look forward to spending our next episode together with you. Until then, remember, invest in yourself, continue to invest in your team, and make sure you believe the best about everybody around you. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.